Long, see, she had been in the nurse corps in the army. See. That's how come she. You see, she had been in the spent I don't know how many years, but during the war she was in the nurse corps.
Grandma was in the nurse corps?
No, this lady actually that was working in the. She was a nurse for Dr. Smith, but prior to that, Dr. Smith came to West Plains in 47 or 48. And I don't know when she got out of the service. But anyway, so I asked her if this girl who was Lil's cousin
Now you got it
was
real
still
good.
working.
Don't worry about it.
Because she wasn't as big as Lil, but she was pretty sharp looking, pretty fair looking. He said no, she got married and her husband then, Lil was 4 or 5 years. Her cousin was younger, Lil's age or a year younger, older or something. And she'd gotten married this old boy, and he was in the service there. Now the war was over a year or two, I think 47. War, but they kept her drafting us for several years.
Tamara, yes.
And you registered just some draft. And she got married. And married this old boy, and I'd gone with him. He was stationed somewhere in the United States. And that's how Lil got the job. Said, no, her cousin was working there. So I asked her about getting. I really liked this. She wasn't good looking. She wasn't sexy or nothing like that. Just pretty good old girl. And she was, well, then I was 25 then, and I expect she was 30 or better, maybe more. Asked her to get me a date with her. Well, she did, and that's how. She had a supper, just supper. Me and Lil. I never met her, see, Lil, and so I went up to her. She had an apartment there in town.
So let me get this straight. You asked this other lady
To get me a date with
to get you a
Mom.
date with Grandma.
She was working with Mom, and that's how.
Well, no kidding. Do you remember your first date?
Yeah, we was up there at her house.
At Grandma's house?
No. See, her house was down in Bushes, down in Gainesville. And she was, but she had an apartment up here. But this was Ruth Southern was her name. And she had an apartment up on Wooster or something up there. And she fixed supper. And Lil was there when we went to the show that night.
Show? What show?
Well, theater.
The Glass Sword?
Huh?
The Glass Sword?
No, Glass Sword. You forget there's 50 years difference.
The Avenue Theater?
No, there was a theater a long time before that, and then it went out of business. And then there was the old Davis Theater down there where Ginger worked, out there where but then there was another theater went in, and it was in the northwest corner of the square, and then back in the arcade. And I think the building's even tore down now. But you know, the square had them 4 arcades that went back. But anyway, that's what the theater was, where the show was.
Okay. Do you remember what the show was? Don't remember. You were too focused on Grandma, weren't you? She had you.
Now you don't always say, well, I had them.
Okay.
The highway right there.
17?
No, wait a minute.
What color house and all that?
It's a white house, a great big old barn. Dad had the barn built, great big old barn there.
before you get to Township Line?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know where? Well,
Yeah, I think I know
you
it's.
know where Rainier lives?
Yes.
Right, you come on south half mile, and it's on that side before you go down them hills in the woods there.
Oh, okay. Is it on the hills that go up and down?
Well, it's just on, no, it's just as you start to go down the first hill.
Okay.
Big old, great big barn there.
Okay. Is that where the preacher lived for the longest time? Larry Inglesby? Larry and Gracia, I mean.
No, there wasn't no preacher over there.
Okay. So you were born there, and then.
So was Marge, and Rosemary was born down at Grandpa's house down the next house.
Okay. So then you lived there for how long?
When I was 14.
Till you were
I'll
4.
take that back. You know about the train wreck?
Nah, maybe I've heard.
Well, in 1926, I was 2 years and 2 months old. My grandmother Cromer, Dad's mother, and a sister, and a nephew, and a neighbor girl. Some of them I know whether grandma or man was done. Old Model T. I think it was a day or two before Thanksgiving. And they were going on Howell Avenue. I don't know where they were going, but across, the railroad track right there where used to be a milk plant, and then I know Ed North had his office there. But anyway, they did not see, and so the lawsuit found supposed to train, but the train hit a Model T car broadside and killed them all. Now, I don't remember it. I don't remember my grandmother or my aunt or anything. But shortly, now I don't know whether it was a month or 2 months, but Grandpa owned the big house down there. Well, I don't know how to tell you. You go to Grandpa Cromer place, and Dad. Dad owned half of this place, I guess. Half of this place. He didn't own that half. But anyway, we lived, and he had a hired man somehow. But Dad and Mother and me moved down to Grandpa and lived there about 3 years. And Dad's hired man then moved in that place up there. And we lived there about 3. My first year in Mott School, I lived at Grandpa Cromer.
Okay.
And then we moved back up. Then there was a renter in here when Dad had bought this. He had trouble getting him out. So I've heard Dad talk about it. And when he did, then we moved back up there, where I'll tell you where I was born. And the renter moved out there, and the hired man moved down here. But we lived there then till 38. And by that time, Dad bought that half over there in 1936. So he owned both these. And in 1938, in October, we moved down here. And what I remember, the school bus, I was a freshman in high school, and the school bus come around. See, there wasn't any highway up there like it is now, well, through the woods and around over there. Have you ever been over and down that big hill, the Bass and down, where Carl's Cattle Guard and that road goes there? That was the county road then. And the bus came that way, and I got it. But then I remember, like I said, Mother and Dad. I went to school that morning from I caught the bus up there on the highway. And I went to school that day. But that evening, I got off the bus down here
Was not too strong now, Mother. Okay, good.
where Carl's cattle guard is. And walked in and we moved. But Mother and Dad moved enough to keep house and stuff. And the next day, it was the 25th of October they moved. And Rosemary, you're right, Rosemary, my sister. Her birthday's the 26th of October. And Mother moved enough stuff that way to bake her a birthday cake for the next day. And then we all heated with wood, you know, nobody ever heard of gas. And Mother had, it was a good one. They had bought it at a sale, but it was probably 10 years old too. An old, what they call Home Comfort was the name of it. Wood cook stove. And you split your wood, little split wood like that. And how they moved that, of course, that was before we had refrigerators and stuff, but how they moved Dad's old truck, Dad had a truck, high, short wheelbase, but it was a flatbed truck. They moved that, but they did. And enough stuff. So that night we slept over there.
And you were how old at that time?
14.
14, and then you lived the rest of your...
Let's see. Yeah, I was 14 past.
And you stayed there for the rest of the duration of your childhood there. Okay.
Except when I was in the service. I was in the service 10 months.
And what year did you go in?
I went in April of 45.
The Army?
Coffee, vanilla nut butter,
For 10 months?
coconut cream, you might use those.
War, a month or two after I went in, Germany surrendered. Then in September, or August, or whatever it was, why, Japan surrendered. And I got out on a hardship discharge. I mean, actually, I think they was glad to kind of get, I mean, then they still had gobs of men in the service, but hell, they didn't know what to do with us. And the boys when I went to service in April, we went down to Louisiana, took basic training, took 4.5 months. And when I got through basic training, why, most all the boys got a 10-day furlough and come home and were sent here and there to various camps. But I joined the Airborne, see, and I didn't come home. And I went to Columbus, Georgia, and went to jump school. And it was October then before I got home. And
So you were actually jumping out of airplanes?
yeah,
Do you remember what kind, what model?
C-47s.
C-47. Dad, were they still jumping out of those when you were in?
They had, at Fort Bragg, they had a museum up on and outside the museum was parked a C-47. And at 17 years old, I used to go up there and climb up on the wing and imagine the guys jumping out over in France and Germany. And when I got out, and I never jumped one in the Army. But when I got in the Marine Corps, the first plane I jumped was a C-47.
No kidding.
And I would have paid them. It was the best fixed-wing aircraft I ever jumped out of.
Wow. So you said you got out on a hardship. Is that because of the family or?
Yeah, I got emergency furlough in December. Dad was sick for 10 days. Then when I came home through the Red Cross, I got another 10-day extension of that. Dad, I don't remember now what Dad was sick. And then when I went back, I applied for this and it took, and I discharged in February. I was discharged in February. Took 5 or 6 weeks for it to go all around. So.
Okay. Okay. Come since then.
Dad bought this half. 1920. There was a
You said your dad bought this half in 1928.
28. Originally, it was owned. There was 2 old bachelor brothers and an old maid sister that lived up about Deepwater or Osceola, something, and moved here over there. There wasn't any buildings over here at all. I never did know why, but they got into it among themselves. So they split it. 240, there was 486 acres of it. And they a line come down over there and then jogged over right there, right over there. Then went on down to by them trees there in the edge of the alfalfa field and down, went a quarter from right out down. Then went straight east again. Anyway, and that's what Dad had bought first. And the old man had died. He was elderly. And you remember, you ought to, that little lean-to room was on the side over there with a porch, a house that burned. They built that for him to sleep in. He lived here and boarded with his renters. But after he died, Dad bought it from the estate or from his brother, so, and he had trouble getting the renters out. Now I don't remember 28. You see, hell, I wasn't 4 or 5 years old, and I don't remember when. But he was quite a while getting these renters out, and so then, but when he did, then he put a hired man down there, and we did, and he had 2 or 3 different hired men down there. One of them died. Elderly man, he was a good one. And then let's see. Then he had another hired man worked here 2 years. Wasn't too satisfactory, I guess. I didn't know then. And then he hired another one, lived over there. And he lived here about 6 months over there. But then, I don't know what, he never talked about them. But anyway, he laid them both off. And the one that worked here 2 years, it really got to him. He thought he was set for long. He didn't expect to be laid off. I think the other one knew something. But anyway, then as soon as we could get, I think he laid them off about the 1st of September. And then it was October before we got moved down here. And we just, of course, he was involved, did everything, and we just farmed it. And then in 1940, he hired Bob Fuller. And he was a crackerjack, Bob. And he worked here exactly 2 years, coming November of 40 and worked to 42. And quit. And then maybe, I don't know what he hired. Yeah, he hired Bob Watkins' brother. He, when we registered for the draft, he was working in Illinois. And he registered up there. Well, to get deferred from the Army, the farm you were working on had to have so many cows, so many of this.
Yeah, I don't have it.
And I think Illinois, being more of a farming community, had to have more of this. And he didn't. And I was deferred, see. I was already deferred, see. And so he got, but his deferment was turned down because there wasn't this wasn't a big enough operation, so and so. And so then we just operated here, just did, I worked here and all the time and had we didn't buy a tractor till 44 then. So I worked and then I went to the service and then I come back and I farmed a year here and Dad was successful. Now Dad I wouldn't call him really chinchy, but he damn sure wanted to know where every dime went, so and so, and so and so. And so then, in 47, there was a fellow lived up here, I got acquainted with a neighbor that was a crackerjack carpenter. In fact, he built his old hay barn down here, it fell down just here. But anyway,
I tried, I forced my
I got him, he got me a job in town with him, with a contractor. And I worked through that summer. From this contractor, he had, I don't know, had 8 or 10 dozen carpenters and a laborer. And then that fall, work was about getting began to get tapered off of the way. And then, most of the jobs then they had, see, that was remodel jobs. See, during the war there, you couldn't get sheetrock, you couldn't get this, you couldn't get, and most of them wasn't many new houses being built, many in West Plains then. Remodel, Pat says it's a remodel job. And when that got, getting it tapered down, and also Dad had rented some land here to an old boy, and had some, and he fizzled, and Dad bought his half of the crop out, and he had some silo, so I took off to help Dad silo, and I never did go back to work, because at that time everything, and then next spring, I started farming it on the shares again, and say clear up to, I guess, to 1955 was the last year I farmed, and I had a sale in 56, and sold my cattle, and then I went to work on West Plains High School up there, $1 an hour.
Doing what?
I was building West Plains High School.
Okay, so you said you stopped farming at 1955,
Was the last year I farmed.
and that's, you're saying full time.
Yeah.
So when you were farming, it was full time prior to 55, and it wasn't. But then after 55, you did it on the side. Is that what you're saying?
No, for years I didn't. Several years I didn't do anything.
Oh, really?
On the farm, maybe I'd help put up a little help, but all Bob Watkins put up the hay a year or two, and I don't know this and that something. But since then, I worked construction from then.
And when you went to work at on West Plains High School, who were you working for?
Adams Construction.
Adams Construction. How long did you work for them?
Well, I went to work about in June, and I worked till a year, and I think it was about September when I
What made you want to stop farming full time and go into
wasn't
the?
making a living at it.
Okay.
I worked at it, wasn't making a living. I had so long. Well, I said, well, I'm just barely getting myself.
Did you have any experience with construction, or
Only that 6-7 months back in 1947. So I started. Carpenters was getting $2 an hour, and the laborers were getting $1.50. I don't know whether you would have to say after I started the second time without. I made making a living at it then, or the best I could. And I wasn't really a dummy. And I loved tools. And I'd see somebody with a certain kind of a handsaw or something, and I'd say, grounds around till I could find and buy one and stuff like that. And I probably learned the most. Oh, but go back. I was working. So I asked, when I got the job, I applied for the job in the carpenter. But the superintendent was a pretty good fellow, nobody would. But he just told me he put me on. But he's afraid, as he expressed, I'm afraid I would be too hard for you to please. So he put me on the labor while I need to go to work for $1 an hour. Well then, I don't know how long through the job. Wasn't too long in the job. 2 months, 3 months, 3 months. Kind of a, well, that's another story. Changed it. And a carpenter quit and so and so. And I asked for his, and the superintendent gave me a carpenter, but they paid me $1 an hour. And he told me now, paid me $1.50 instead of $2. But hell, that was 50 cents, and I was damn glad to get it. And also, they put me with a carpenter up there who was the superintendent's brother, and he knew, and the super layout man or whatever they'll call him. He was a character. And you that. I can take a week and tell you some of the things about him. But he was probably as good, or if not the second best layout man on something like that I ever worked under. I knew he was lazy. He didn't want to do nothing himself, and didn't have to. He wasn't doing, and so on. And he was a carouser. But and then after that, I worked for him. After that job was over and so on.
Yeah, you do.
I don't know, a couple of years later, I worked for him, under him,
Well,
for 2 or 3 different
like
jobs.
anything else, like.
And he, like I say, if he wasn't the best, he was the second best layout man I ever worked
But you
with.
could eat them.
And he, Friday night,
That's the caffeine, but.
Friday night,
But I drink coffee with caffeine.
not ever, because I'm married, I didn't run around, but Friday night, he'd get jumped up, and he lost his driver's license once a little bit, or thought he was going to or something one time.
Check my blood pressure. He said,
And he knew all the old,
you know,
whores around town and all. He was married.
teenage.
In fact, his wife was a
The only
distant
thing
cousin to
wrong
Walt.
with you is your liver.
But then he come from Bakersfield, where he come from originally.
Well, it affects
But-
your blood pressure.
Still know when it comes to taking them plans. I learned more about reading the plans and Grant worked close to money too. Now, he didn't, but he was seen to it that you did, and I always liked that. So really, in spite of everything, I kind of like to work under him now.
He taught you a lot.
Huh?
He taught you a lot.
Yes.
What was his name?
Grant DeLarm.
Grant what?
DeLarm.
DeLarm.
He's dead now.
Okay.
But, and then finally got things kind of, I worked under him, helped build that Alton School.
I don't,
And
but
I
I
helped build this,
remember, well, right
that Methodist church at Thayer there, where 142 hits old 63 on the left. I helped build that. And then we did a big remodel job on the Baptist church there in the sanctuary, a big remodel job. To build a sanctuary on the south side of the Baptist church and all that. And I helped work. And finally, they were about out of anything to do down here. And that's when the Holiday Inn started. And it had just been started a little while, just 2 or 3 weeks. And there was an ad in the paper and I went out there at noon and just signed a thing. Just a day or two, I got a phone call or got a call, got a letter, because we didn't have phones then. And I went out there and they put me on. And there was another carpenter there. He lived over at Poplar Bluff. We gave a drink. And this contractor was out of Springfield. And they had done and he specialized in those Holiday Inns. And he could start one and tell you damn near within a week when you could have it now. But they were after I got this one was just like the one he finished over the last one he did in Princeton. This unit was just only the units were right and left-handed. They backed up like this, see, and there was two 4-inch walls, pipe chase, between them. And that's where all the plumbing, water line stuff run down that. See, and when you laid out the bathrooms, one of them, they were just alike, except one of them was left-handed and one of them was right-handed. If I make, see, like, here you see, anyway, but so I got on there, and this old boy they brought over it from Poplar Bluff. I worked with him for a little bit, not very long, and then the superintendent. I think, now this is my opinion, but I think the superintendent saw that I did not have to be led around to do it. So they put a laborer with me and put a laborer with him. And he was supposed to be, or thought he was, I think he got 2 bits more than I did as a foreman. So we worked along and that was in the fall till about January. And this contractor got an addition to the Holiday Inn in Springfield. So the old boy that was from Poplar Bluff, he went to Springfield.
Yeah, I saw that.
And then they made me the foreman on it. And I had another carpenter that I liked, Ray Earls. And Delmar Martin was working for as a laborer there. And the boy lived down there, still lives down there, just barely over the Arkansas line on Bill Perkins. And we finished it. Well, I kind of like working with these people. I really like. And they had an addition to one Fort Dodge, Iowa. Well, I didn't know Fort Dodge was quite as far as it was, but I asked about going. So we finished on Thursday or Friday, and Monday morning I took off for Fort Dodge, Iowa, and it's big 10 hours drive. Was then, I guess you could do it a little quicker now to do it now. But I went up there and we built that one. And when the job in Springfield was done, this carpenter from Poplar Bluff, he come up, and I was a foreman. I didn't ever kick, but if he could change anything in the world, just a little bit. He did it out of ornaments or pride, I don't know.
Well,
And I remember.
We were fortunate in that way. We lost out and some. That's, those two chairs there, you see, those were my
you
grandfather's
gotta take
chairs.
a shower.
Those two chairs were my grandfather's chairs.
Okay. So you wanted those
Well,
chairs.
somebody jerked them out. Now they were smoke
You know, I can remember. when
damage
Sherry's
and
Christmas
Ginger or somebody took
Sherry's
them. We didn't. I saved all my guns except I lost
I knew
one
where
pistol.
Matthew was.
I don't know how.
He was born,
I thought I had them all out. That was the first thing I grabbed.
I went 10 years ago, so I
And Malta saved that television. I don't know whether it's that or not. She grabbed it and carried it out in the front yard. And I'll guarantee you, if it hadn't been for the fire, she couldn't even have picked it up. But she grabbed the television right out of that thing and carried it out in the front yard. Basically, with her, I would like, I could answer it very easily. I knew him, and he did what he said he would do. That's what I tried to do, and still do. If I tell you I'm going to meet you somewhere, and there's something unbound, I'll be there, and I'll be there
Strange to see you.
on time, or 5 to
yeah,
30 minutes early.
dark at one time, John.
And these people tell you to be there, and then Donnie Corsi was the worst I was ever around. He was a good hand, I liked him.
Yeah.
But I'll say, 3 out of 5 mornings, he'd be from 2 or 3 or 5 minutes to 30 minutes late.
So what would you say is your primary purpose in life?
Trying to make a living.
Make a living.
For her time, she could do no wrong. For her time, she could do no wrong.
Sweet it.
And I'll tell you another one, and it wasn't like that trip to Canada. But, and Jay, and I agreed to go to Arizona. And he went out there and was there a year. And Ginger was already in California. And I bought, or he bought, but I signed a note for a new car. And Jay and Kathy and Lynn went to California. We went to
No, it's not.
Phoenix, yeah, and got out there.
Not working.
I don't remember, middle of afternoon. Found the place, found the school. It wasn't Phoenix itself. I forget, it was a little town off, but it was in Phoenix, Arizona. And got him arrangements all made and found his room place where he apartment or room. I don't remember what it was. But got everything.
Well, those
Then-
are his, Mr. Kroger's.
We went on. Then we went on.
Where are they?
No, we stayed there that night. Stayed in Phoenix that night. The next morning,
Well, I see
Yeah,
there's two
we
open.
went
Can
on
you
over
look for
to-
pictures on the other side?
California, where Ginger was, and I don't remember. Paid. Yeah,
Sarah
no,
had artistic.
stayed 2 or 3 days over there with, and Marge lived in St. Louis there. It was stayed with at Rosemary. Road. Anyway, but Sunday afternoon we thought it'd be better for Jay. It was completely new to Jay too. Now he could drive, of course, no, but he thought better. So he left 2 o'clock, I guess, to go back to Phoenix. And Kathy, and when he drove off, me and Kathy was out in the yard at Aunt Rosemary's.
How you do it, I'm like.
Both of us cried.
I did it on accident.
That was tough. See a kid, first time going drive off like this. But he made it fine, and made it through his schooling, so on. Oh, I don't know how many times, 3 or 4 times, come down on maybe Thursday evening.
Who was coming down?
Roger. I'd work Friday, Saturday, and Sunday noon or evening, afternoon, and then go back home.
On your new house?
On this house, yes.
That meant a lot to you?
Well, I like to hunt with him.
I like to hunt with him.
He was a good.
How would you describe him as a hunter?
He was good. Give it up or quit or got out. I think he went this morning. I think he did, but he's up to do it. In fact, one late in the deer season, he drove from Camden and come down there. And time to go deer hunting on me, just me and him went. And I had them 2 little old dogs. You remember Tiny?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah.
Now she pushed it and had that big with a jocko. And by God, they'd push one out of the bushes now for you.
Yeah.
They just, and we went over east. I took her right over there to the moose. And she jumped. And Jay made a shot. Now, we didn't get it. But he was shooting a quarter or better, and the thing was running. Just went over the fence way over there. And we walked over there just to look. And we found some blood. But we didn't find just some kind of, but just the thing went over the fence. Well, as a kid, he worried us to death.
He what?
Worried us to death.
Really?
Well, start with, when he started his school, and she can explain that more to you.
When he did what?
Do you know what phonics are in education?
Yes.
Well, that was about the time he started. They discontinued it. Craig never learned to read, really read. He didn't finish the 12th grade. He didn't make good grade, and he quit in spite of all we could do. And that worried me that he didn't get his high school diploma.
How would you say it turned out for him?
Well, I would say this, the last 10 or a dozen years, I think he is doing, or as far as I know, has done remarkably well, better than I anticipated about the time he dropped out of school. Be right frank, I was opposed to Bill Stone all the way.
Yes.
All the way. Partially because of his stepdad, and so, but you see, she was, sis?
He was 78.
He's fixing to say something that you'll probably want to edit
He
out.
was 78 and mother was 76.
Now, seriously, how long did you live with Bill Stone?
We got married in November,
I know,
and I didn't last 6 months.
huh?
Not 6 months.
I know, I didn't think it lasted over 3 months. And
But
it
for
didn't.
sure wasn't 6 months.
And the reason, you know how I know it was in December, November?
What?
You know how I know it was in November that you married him?
Deer season or something?
Huh?
Deer season?
Yes, sir, I missed half a deal. Well,
They haven't thought of that yet.
as a child, I would call her just normal.
Maybe people would have used it.
About a late teenager, when she remote stuff, she tried your mother, your grandmother, our patient.
A little extra. You know,
Now,
she
I
said
think
it.
she's done a complete
That's Rosemary.
reversal.
Marge.
As I told you once
I watched the
before,
movie. When
I think she is a modern day
Oh, yeah, I remember it was
replica
Dreamer.
of my mother. You worked like hell.
Worked.
Oh, yes, you bet. My kids all worked. Now, Craig did the least, because about that time I was going out of town.
Oh, okay.
And nobody would take the lead. Yes,
So
yes.
Uncle Steve worked
Oh, yes,
pretty hard.
yes, sir. Ma,
No, this is a question for you.
Ma, come here, man. She has done, I think, remarkably well with what she had to work with.
Oh, my goodness.